Hello Frozies! McFrozen Nuggets here, coming to you with another video, and today this is actually kind of a really monumental day because this is actually my first review that I'm actually doing in my new place. Yeah, I have one of the reasons why I haven't done reviews for a long while, not since mid to late April of this year, is partially because I'm really, ever since moving to our new place, I haven't really figured out where to do reviews, but I kind of finally settled on this spot after I was watching a video from RC Cars 5, aka Disney Docket. I still refer to him as RC Cars 5 since that's basically the name of his original name is what I'm most used to. And I decided, you know what, I think this spot is definitely a good place to do reviews. So here I am, doing my first Cars diecast review for a long while, not since Easter last year, I don't think. On what I would consider to be one of my favorite scores ever, being of the Cars 2 Mack hauler. Now, I actually got this about like a couple weeks ago when I was with my friend Matt Garish at Walmart, and yes, I did have a little bit of money. along with this Mack, I also happened to get the version 1 Cars on the Road Lightning McQueen, who I'll do a review on as well. And honestly, I'm really happy that I got this guy, because then that basically leaves me open to actually do a comparison between him and the version 2 On the Road McQueen. And I also don't need to get the On the Road Mater, since the one that was initially released for the series was just simply this one. But anyway, we're not talking about Cars on the Road, we're talking about the Cars 2 Mack. This is actually really special considering the fact that the original release from late 2011, early 2012 has actually became very, very rare. So, and then Mattel completely unexpectedly decided to re-release him. I think it was either earlier this year or maybe it was last year. Actually, yeah, I think it was earlier this year. Now that I think about it. And when I saw him in the store, I was like, okay, I gotta get this guy. And fortunately, I jumped at the shot of actually getting him, so I did. So before we get even any further into this review, let's take a look at the packaging first. And here is the packaging. Obviously, this is on the 2022 Red Riders packaging, as RC Cars 5 oftentimes refers to it as. And I do like that we have a little shot of Lightning McQueen from Cars 3 down there. And it doesn't say Cars 2 Mack, but it just says Mack hauler right there, which is a little interesting. And it shows him opened up. Oddly enough, they actually show a shot of the Cars 1 Classic Lightning McQueen popping out the back. When actually previously, on the original release of this guy, they actually showed the World Grand Prix Lightning McQueen coming out the back. So I actually think that's kind of interesting. And obviously, neither of these are actually the ones that correspond to this. I'll show you. Obviously, you kind of saw which one it was earlier. And for some reason, there's some versions of this packaging that only have the Cars logo, but the one I have does in fact say as seen in Cars 2. Honestly, just having this, along with all the World Grand Prix racers that I've already reviewed, is just so amazing. And I'm really excited to get more Cars 2 diecast. Again, I hope to get Finn McMissile, I hope to get Holly Schiffwell, as well as at least the 3 main lemons from Cars 2, being Graham, Acer, and Professor Z, and maybe even Miles Axelrod. And actually, before I forget as well, I actually do still have the packaging for when I got the Cars 3 Mack hauler. And you can see it is a little bit shorter in terms of length. And actually, it's also a little bit shorter in terms of height as well, but the Cars 3 or 2018-2019 hauler is actually slightly wider. Lift this up a little bit. And they have the same picture of McQueen, the same image of Classic McQueen coming out the back, which is also rather interesting if you ask me. And yeah, obviously you can see the Cars 3 Mack hauler in the background, as currently that's the only other version of Mack I own. I'll actually mention how funny I find that in a sec, which I'll actually say right now. So obviously, this version of Mack appeared at the beginning of Cars 2, when McQueen first arrived back to Radiator Springs from his last race, in his, at the time, brand new Hudson Hornet Piston Cup paint job. Now, obviously, unfortunately, you can't actually find this guy on the store shelves, but as this is actually one of the original releases of HHPC McQueen. This one has a date stamp of like midway through 2012, 222nd day of 2012. So yeah, this guy is actually just about 10 years, just about 10 years old now, just over that. Anyway, Mack, he also only had 2 speaking lines. Again, at the beginning of the movie when he was talking about McQueen and Mater's tire shake, quote unquote. And at the end of the movie, also in Radiator Springs, when he was talking to Lizzie about the whole spy adventure and whatnot. And obviously, this is very different from his appearance in Cars 3, where he had basically like a supporting role in Cars 3, where he basically took McQueen everywhere across the United States, like to Thunder Hollow, to Thomasville, to the Rusty's Racing Center, and then to the Florida 500. Now, I will also mention that there are a few things I wish were slightly more accurate about this Mack, but for the most part, I'm just super happy to actually have him anyway. And what I was going to say, in regards to this being kind of funny, that I got the Cars 2 version Mack after Cars 3, is that I'm basically going backwards in terms of the versions of Mack. Like, late 2018, early 2019, I got the Cars 3 version. Now, just recently, I got the Cars 2 version. Now I just need to get the Cars 1 version, and then I'll have the 3 main variations of Mack from the Cars trilogy. So I honestly find that kind of funny, as opposed to going in chronological order, being like Cars 1, Cars 2, Cars 3. Instead, I'm going in reverse chronological order. Like Cars 3, Cars 2, Cars 1. So again, I find that really, really funny, to be honest. But yeah, again, he was only released previously in late 2011, early 2012. Became super rare. Finally got a re-release somehow after Mattel countlessly re-released the Cars 3 Mack, who again I'll compare to in a little bit. Yeah, I'll just put this McQueen off to the side, and I'll attach him really quick. He has a nice little expression. Obviously, this is made in Vietnam as opposed to China. And he also has the Rusty's logo on his cab, with 2 little red lightning bolts coming on either side. There's also a little bit of a gradient red, like going from lighter to slightly darker. And he's got the 95 with the lightning bolt kind of zigzagging in and around it. He's got Mack right there, which is not just his name, but it's also the type of truck that he is. And he also has that on his silver grille as well. There's the attachment for the hauler. It's got Rusty's logo on his mud flaps. And he's got Rusty's 3 as his license plate. Here's the base, if you're interested, right there, made in Vietnam. And you can kind of see the date stamp is a little hard to see because of the lighting I have in here. So yeah. And now this is actually where I get into one of the inaccuracies of this guy. Right here, next to the Mack text, is where the Hudson Hornet Piston Cup decal should be on his semi-cab. But for some reason that's not on the actual diecast. Now personally, I might possibly make some sort of a decal or sticker to put right there, just so at least it'll look a little more accurate. But also too, the 95 logo is also supposed to be a little bit bigger, as like it is in the movie. So yeah. Now for the actual hauler. As you can see, we got the Rusty's logo right there. We got all his contingency sponsors. This is actually the first version of Mack that I've gotten with all these contingency sponsors listed. We got the pose of Lightning McQueen. That's actually from the first movie, just simply slightly edited to look more like the Hudson Hornet Piston Cup McQueen. And speaking of which, we actually have that logo right there. Lightning McQueen. There's the 95 with the lightning bolt. And it says right here, Rusty's proud sponsor of Team Lightning McQueen. And this is another one of the inaccuracies right here. This actually should not be on this version of Mack, this pose of McQueen. It should actually be the one that's shown here in the picture, which I'll actually put like right here. And then same thing for the back. This is the post, the parking post for McQueen should be the same as, pretty much the same as it is on the side right here. But anyway, got that same Lightning McQueen logo on the top. Got Rusty's Hudson Horn Piston Cup, and then the license plate is Rusty's 4 for some reason. It's been like that on all the Macks except the Jocko Flocko Mack, which has become super rare. We got the same sort of thing on here, except it's mirrored. And before I forget, on both sides it also says "Follow me to Radiator Springs," as obviously this was basically meant to be like free advertising for Radiator Springs to get more people into the town. And obviously, all the Mack collars do not open from the side, although for some reason this is actually rather loose. Might possibly end up using some glue to make sure that this doesn't come apart. Anyway, the Mack collars actually open up like this, and the door flips down. There's a little support there, and inside you got a little like air compressor in there for McQueen's tires possibly. And obviously you can drive McQueen up in there. You can close the door and then close it out, and then attach him to Mack, and then you can drive McQueen around to his next race. Now, and then obviously you can also open it up like that, and then drive him on down. Now, I think I said this with the Cars 3 Mack collar when I first reviewed him. The way I personally like doing it is I just simply try to get I just try to open it up like this, and then just have the door like that, since I think it's a little bit more since to me, it's just a little more movie accurate. Just simply drive McQueen on inside, and not have to deal with, and not have to push it in all the way. And then you can just close it up like that. But again, that's just me personally. That's just the way I personally like doing it. I just really like that when you actually kind of drive him down, that's on a little bit of an incline. He just rolls right on out. So at the same time, you can also kind of recreate the scene in the first movie, if you have the Cars 1 Mack, where McQueen actually gets lost on the interstate. Now, like I mentioned before, this is basically the version of McQueen that actually needed Mack, as opposed to the World Grand Prix McQueen, where he obviously didn't need Mack when he had this paint job, as instead he needed a plane to get from race to race, being from Tokyo to Italy to London and then back to Radiator Springs. And despite McQueen actually having this paint job when he first got back to Radiator Springs, Mack was still on this paint job because, again, he wasn't needing Mack. But I still really like, I will say, they actually still look really nice together. Kind of reminds me of a lot of the playsets that involve the Cars 2 Mack and having this McQueen alongside it. But again, obviously for accuracy's sake, you gotta have the Hudson Horn Piston Cup version of McQueen alongside this Mack. Now, like I mentioned before, this is already the second version of Mack I've gotten. The previous one was, again, the Cars 3 version of Mack, which, right here. Obviously, this guy was made in China. And right off the bat, one thing that I mentioned is that this version of Mack just simply copies the same expression as the Cars 3 Mack. He just simply has a bit of eyeliner shadow to make it look a little more realistic. Rusty's logos are very, very similar. This one just simply has a straight up red background, whereas this one has a bit of a gradient red background with the two red lightning bolts. Before I get into any of the other decals, the Rusty's bumper ointment logo is actually slightly different on the Cars 2 version. This one's actually a little bit of a lighter red, as opposed to this one where it's a bit of a darker red. And yes, I also did paint this piece a little bit silver because that's actually more accurate to the movie. If I might end up painting this as silver as well. And you can also see how the logo changed drastically from Cars 2 to Cars 3. I've also mentioned that this is technically the first version of Cars, or the first version of Mack that actually has the flames, which obviously match McQueen's paint job in Cars 3. And obviously it's also kind of like a bit of a hypothetical way of saying, like, this is somewhat what Mack would have looked like had he had a similar design as McQueen in Cars 2, since obviously Cars 2 is when McQueen first got the lightning bolt flame decals, which he later carried over to Cars 3. So I just wanted to point that out there as well. Detach him actually really quick. And obviously the Rusty's logo also got quite a bit brighter on Cars 3 as opposed to Cars 2. Really curious as to what the Cars 1 Mack will look, or how the Cars 1 Mack will look compared to these two. Honestly, I already have reviewed technically the Cars 1 Mack, but that was just a semi, and I don't really feel like pulling him out. I just mainly want to wait until the Cars 1 Mack, where I can actually compare all of them. To see how things change a lot between Cars 2 and Cars 3. Obviously, technically, there was a design of Mack in between these two, being the Intra Rusty's Mack, which I really hope Mattel will, at the very least, make. Again, if we can't exactly get the Danica Cruz design from the end of Cars 3, I would at least be happy with getting the Intra Rusty's McQueen design from the beginning of Cars 3, because then we can have that alongside the other stock car piston cup haulers at the beginning of the film, right when McQueen crashed. And he also got rid of all his contingency sponsors, and it only has the piston cup right here. Rusty's logo is also a lot bigger. Again, pretty much the same design. Doesn't have Rusty's proud sponsor Team Lightning McQueen. Doesn't have Volume Radiator Springs. And then here's the back. Same overall idea. This one actually, for some reason, did not actually have the Rusty's 4 license plate. I just simply got it like that. It's a sort of minor error. And actually, for that matter, this version, Cars 3 Mack, also, for some reason, doesn't even have its name painted on there, whereas Cars 2 actually does. So I think this one is somewhat of a factory error in regards to just the name painted on there and then the license plate. And despite this being from China, the inside of the Cars 3 Mack is the exact same with the air compressor. Just simply for some extra proof. There we go on that. Next, you drive both the HSPC McQueen up in there and the Cars 3 Remembrance McQueen up in there. Just to see how they both look together. Again, I do like how these two kind of complement each other just in the expression as well as the design of their paint jobs. So close up the Cars 3 version and then close up the Cars 2 version. Again, once I get the Cars 1 version, then I'll do a full-fledged comparison between all 3 versions of Mack. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this review. Obviously I'll link to RC Cars 5's original review of the original Cars 2 Mack in the description below, and the card suggestion if I remember to put it up there. Get the corresponding McQueens right here. Cars 3 Remembrance. And actually just for laughs and giggles, get the World Grand Prix McQueen right here. And just simply for a bit of a completionist sake, get the classic Cars 1 McQueen over there. Again, really hope to get the Cars 1 version. If Mattel either re-releases that version of Mack next year or in another 2 years, I'll definitely review him. But until then, I think I'll possibly have to resort to either Amazon or eBay to get the Cars 1 Mack. So yeah, as usual, social media links are in the description below. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video. And actually, really quick, for a bit of a coincidence, I actually even did a bit of a crossover between Cars and My Life as a Teenage Robot, when I actually did a bit of a design for Miss Jenny here with Lightning McQueen's designs. Actually, more so resembling McQueen's design in Cars 3, but having the sort of lightning bolt design on her pigtails for her from the Intro Rusty's design. So honestly, I think that's actually kind of funny, if I'm being honest. So yeah, and I also do plan on, and again, be on the lookout for my review of the Cars on the Road Lightning McQueen. I do hope to get some of those Marvel Legends reviews of Warrior Thor and America Chavez down and out, as well as those other two, as well as those two Mandalorian sets that I said I would eventually review. But now that I actually have a sort of idea of where I can do reviews, which is actually right in front of my closet door, I'm not ashamed of saying that, I think we can actually expect some more reviews from coming soon from on my channel now. So yeah, and I'm sorry I'm kind of rambling a lot. This is my first time reviewing something in like 3 months. So again, I apologize for that. But at least I am still active. You can still find me doing edits for, again, Teenage Robot, as well as other things, like on my Instagram and whatnot. Excuse me. Yeah, as usual, love all you Frozies to death, and of course, as always, in true Jesse Ridgway / McJuggernuggets fashion, do not forget to keep it rigid. Again, I don't just say that just simply to copy him. That's simply as a tribute to him. And obviously, as always, this is the way.